Who will be the next Bruins captain? We'll discuss this on this episode of Hattrick HQ. I'm KC, joined by my co-host Mark Pye, and welcome back to Hattrick HQ. With that said, let's get right into the first topic of this video, which is who will be the next Bruins captain? I know since Bergeron's retirement, a lot of Bruins fans have been speculating what's going to happen with the captaincy over the coming weeks and the end of the offseason. We've come upon an article written by Shukri Wrights of the Hockey News stating 5 situations that he thinks going to play out in Boston. With that said, we'll get right into the first situation he believes is Brad Marchand, of course. Brad Marchand has been a staple of Boston for so many years. As he writes in this article, Marchand has grown and evolved tremendously as a leader in the last 4 years, having learned from Chara and Bergeron. With Bergeron retired, the 35-year-old Marchand is now the longest tenured player, having been with the Bruins since 2009-2010. And now we'll take a look at Marchand's stats over his time in Boston. Last season, he put up 67 points in 73 games, and the year before, he's put up 80 points in 70 games. And as we know, Mark, he's been, the guy. When you say the Bruins, you think of Marchand immediately. What do you think of Marchand becoming the captain of the Bruins?
With Marchand, I'll first start off and say it's hard to talk great about him all the time as a Leafs fan. But overall, he's an incredible player. As you've seen in the years, he helped them lead them to Stanley Cups. He's put up points, he's got under people's skins, and he really brings everything to that team. So even though he's 35, I do think if he was named captain, it is the perfect opportunity for him, and I don't think anyone would be upset about it.
Yeah, I agree. As a Habs fan and you as a Toronto fan, we've grown to hate Brad Marchand. When he's on the ice, he's just a pest. He's out there getting under guys' skin, getting them riled up. But over the past couple seasons, we've kind of seen him mature now that he's getting up there in age. I think if there's any time that we're going to see Marchand and as a captain, I think it's right now.
I agree.
And we're going to get right into the second player, which is Charlie McAvoy. As Shukri writes about McAvoy is the number 1 defenseman on the Bruins. He is signed long term. His contract expires in 2030 and has the privilege of having learned from both Chara and Bergeron. Naming the 25-year-old would also fall in line with the history of great Bruins defensemen that were named captain. And now we'll take a look at his stats over his time in Boston. He's been in Boston his whole career. Last year putting up 52 points in 67 games, and a year before putting up 56 points in 78 games. Mark, what do you think about them naming another defenseman as captain?
In my opinion, I think Charlie McAvoy would be the best captain at this point. When you go back to look at Marchand a bit, he is getting up there. He is 35. You never know if the Bruins are going to be selling soon and how long Marchand will be there. But a guy like Charlie McAvoy, you've seen he's signed through 2030. He's been a staple on their defense for the past couple of seasons. He's incredible on both ends of the ice. And personally, I think he is the best possibility for the Bruins to be named captain.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they're trying to go for a long-term captain, kind of like what Montreal did with Nick Suzuki, I think he's the perfect option. At 25 years old, making a guy captain, signed through 2030, it's only going to make him play better with a C on his chest. But I think also you can't pass up Marchand either. He's just been a staple of Boston. I think even if he only plays 2 more seasons, give him the C for 2 seasons and then give it to McAvoy. And we're going to get right into the fourth player, which is David Pastrnak. And as the Hockey News article states, David Pastrnak, arguably the most skilled Bruin. Pastrnak is not exactly a vocal leader in the same way that Bergeron or even Marchand is, but as an on-ice leader, the offensive winger does the job, and more. After all, Pastrnak led the Bruins with 61 goals and 113 points last season. If the Bruins are going to make the playoffs again, Pasta will once again be leaned on for leadership. And we'll take a look at his stats over his time in Boston, another guy who's been in Boston his whole career. And like we just read in the article, he had 113 points last year in 82 games, played the full season. In the year before, he had 77 points in 72 games played. Mark, what do you think of Pastrnak being named captain in Boston?
You can see a trend going here that the Bruins do have a lot of great players. They have young guys, they have veterans. Personally, in my opinion, Pasta's more at the bottom of my list on who'll be named captain. Obviously, we don't know what's going on in the locker room. We don't know everything off ice. But you don't know with the situation of McAvoy has stepped up. As it stated earlier, Marchand has been just a vocal guy. He's led this team. He's seen championships. And even though I think Pass is the best player on the Bruins, it's almost hard to just give him that captaincy due to being the best player. You almost need to get that guy that's going to speak up, put everyone's butts in gear. And personally, I think the two guys before him were a better option.
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, you can't pass up on his talent, but you need the guy who in the locker room who's just gonna set a fire on their guys when they're down. Someone in the playoffs if they're down in a series that's gonna rile the team up to try to come back. I'm not saying that Pasta isn't that guy. He could be, like we said, we don't know. Personally, we're not in the room, but like I think Marchand and McAvoy are definitely the better choice. Uh, so with that said, we'll get right into our last topic, which is the case for no captain. And as the Hockey News article states, in the end, the Bruins might decide not to have a captain next season. With or without Bergeron, the leadership group on the Bruins remains strong, with the likes of Marchand, McAvoy, and Pastrnak in the dressing room. For that reason, maybe this is a decision that can wait a year. One further aspect that will be interesting is that the Bruins general manager Don Sweeney and Bruins president Cam Neely will be deliberate in their decision making, while involving Bruins head coach Jim Montgomery in the process of naming their 21st captain of the Bruins in history. What do you think about them running like a four assistant captain type of role?
I think this may happen as well. If they're going to name a captain next season, I think it will be Brad Marchand. But the Bruins team, when you're looking with Krejci gone and Bergeron gone, there's no real direction right now. You don't know if they're going to win the President's Trophy or if they're just going to miss the playoffs. So they may use this as like a buffer year just to kind of see who starts stepping up without Bergeron in the lineup and what direction you want to go. If you want to name a 35-year-old Brad Marchand, or do you want to get a younger guy like Charlie McAvoy be named captain that can be there for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think now where we're so late in the offseason, I think that we're going to see this situation arise where Cam Neely and the coach and all the head office may think, hey, let's just take a year and think about it, and we'll give the guys who we were debating on, the A's, see who steps up and see who has the better characteristics for a captain.
I agree. I don't think there's any rush to hop into this. I'm sure once they see this guy take that Bergeron role without him being in the locker room, then it would pretty much answer itself right there.
Well, guys, we'd like to hear your opinion on this down below. Who do you think the next Boston Bruins captain is going to be? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. With that said, I've been KC. This has been Mark Pye. Have a good one.